Good morning, everybody. We're going to wait just a few minutes to let everybody get in. All right, I think we're going to get started here in just a minute. Joining us today is going to be Valiander. Silverdust had last minute change of schedule. So we've got one of our other intrepid directors here today. Val, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Can you hear me okay? I just swapped to my headset.
I can.
Awesome. Yeah, things are going well. How about you?
Hanging in there. It's been an interesting couple weeks.
Agreed.
Lots of personal crap I'm dealing with right now. So, fun times. It's that time of year. All right. Well, I think it's probably as good a time as any to go ahead and get going. Val, do you want to start us off with a few updates from the management side of things?
Um, I will pass it over to you. There's a question in AMA questions I'm going to address, and I'll just kind of smash it all together in that. So, have at it.
Great deal. So we have been working. This is our first day of May since we got the swap system up and running. So for those of you that aren't aware, lunardex.io is live. It is our 7-chain, same chain swap brought to you through our recent uh, basically the we got passed the torch from another project with some of their technology. We cleaned some of it up, spruced it up, did some updates, and shipped it. We're very excited about this chain that we have, lunardex.io. We'll talk briefly about. I think we mentioned it in the announcement post. If you haven't seen that on the blog, please go check it out. We'll kind of start off just with the brand and what we expect from the platform moving forward. So one of the things we have been talking about from the earliest days of the Lunar project is this concept of Plexus as a brand name and the um how the DEX that we were thinking of was going to power the entire ecosystem. um we over the course of trying to get this wasn't really an acquisition, so I can't call it an acquisition, but as we became the stewards of this other project and how we were gonna pull their assets into our ecosystem and expand upon them and all that good stuff, we looked at bringing the name Plexus into the brand of this space. There were several blog posts that talked about it, etc. But over the course of actually polishing everything up and getting it out the door, it became quickly apparent that since we came up with that name, somebody else in the crypto space had also started using it and had been able to get some funding and some slightly more visible um, uh, just more visibility in the space. And so it didn't make sense to maintain that name. Moving forward, it felt like we needed something that was going to be a little more central to our strategy and a clearer definition of what it is without having to explain it. And so looking at all of our options and with the name Lunar makes it very difficult to get domain names, makes it very difficult to be able to protect brands that are connected to it. And you may or may not be surprised how many of those were taken. But we did happen upon LunarDex .io, and out of all the options that we had, it seemed the most suitable moving forward. So that's live now. I'm super excited about it. It was a significant effort since April to get this situation or get everything nailed down. I believe it was April. It could have been May. I don't. It's been a few months. But anyways, it's taken a lot of effort to get this thing up and running. I'm very excited about the potential for being the foundation for our ecosystem. I'll talk briefly about one of the AMA questions in the AMA channel was see here. From Jack, since the DEX is a priority, will the Blazor migration be worked on first? So within the ecosystem and what we're building, and I'm sure you folks have seen what's been going on with Binance and the Binance ecosystem, the rise of Base as a chain, and a number of other chains that are doing well within the space. The BNB chain is not doing as well comparatively as some of these other chains, and we've seen our token pairing continue to degrade since we locked the liquidity pool last year. So we've got to, and the foundation directors posted this last week, I believe. We've got to start stopping the bleeding with how our pairing is set and how the being on just one chain is affecting our whole ecosystem. So getting this DEX online was the first step in making the Lunar ecosystem multi-chain. I'm very excited about what that means for us. We're on 7 fantastic chains. And so really the next step within this process is identifying and understanding how are we going to, moving forward, make it so where LNR and the LNR ecosystem is not so dependent on the BNB ecosystem. Because from our market makers and really anybody else that we talk to that are experts in the space, nobody has a terribly positive outlook on what's going to happen, and their issues have been dragging the entire ecosystem down. So the priority within what we're working on is how do we what's the next step for our tokens. And now that we have multi-chain capability, what makes the most sense for making the LNR token multi-chain? We don't have an answer for that question yet in terms of which chain it's going to live on, or how are we going to bridge and how are we going to build out that space. But if you think about swaps in general and how the swapping system works today, all of the swaps within Lunar DEX are same chain swaps. So clearly what people are going to want next, because everybody always wants some more features and functionality. Clearly what it's going to need next is the ability to do multi-chain or cross-chain swaps. So if we're doing cross-chain swaps, then that involves bridging. Bridging tends to be one of the most heavily attacked approaches or infrastructure pieces of crypto, because of the way that bridging works under the covers. And so we're looking at are there any relatively simple ways that we can bring bridging to the table to enable multi-chain swaps within the Lunar ecosystem? And then from there, hopefully that'll help define for us more clearly, based on whatever we're able to plug into there, how do we make LNR's future multi-chain as well? And I want to be clear on that because I'm sure there are going to be questions like, hey, like, does that mean we're going to have to migrate again or anything like that? Absolutely not. We did that once. Barring any other unforeseen issue with the token, we want that process to be we want that to be the the item of last resort. We never want to have to do that again. We can't say it's never going to happen again, but we never want to do that again. So we have these, perfect score audit token contracts. They're easily deployable on other EVM chains. Right now, we only work with other EVM chains. So the question is just going to be, what is it going to take to make LNR multi-chain? The part of the reality of that is what it's going to take is liquidity pools on different chains. And so, of course, our liquidity currently being tied up on BNB chain and locked through PancakeSwap, tied to WBNB and locked till November, is currently the blocking issue that prevents us from being able to do anything in that realm. So we're working on, the right way to tackle that problem, digging through and trying to figure out what's the best approach. And, if we're not able to come up with something before the liquidity pool unlocks, what are our next steps going to be when it does? So all of that is, again, tied to the swap mechanism and is our first priority in terms of thinking. So second priority is we've made some upgrades to the packages and the core code on how the swap works. However, there's currently a how do I explain this? So the swap system is made up of a number of open source software packages that are all piled up and put together on a platform called NPM, which is the Node Package Manager. And one of the packages that we use is Uniswap's Smart Order Router. That's some of the technology that helps get you the pricing on different chains and connects through and gets you real-time pricing and multi-hop swaps and that sort of thing are all kind of in that package. That package is currently has two issues. One has to do with dependencies down chain that have introduced a vulnerability. So we can't upgrade to the latest version of that yet. And the second one is that they're dependent on a gas, one of their gas quote providers no longer exists. They shut down. But the code is still dependent on that provider. So they're working on pulling that out and moving over to Tenderly. They're working on putting another set of packages out that have if I remember correctly, they're dependent on, oh, the name just escaped me. Whatever the platform is that we manage our contracts with, there's a dependency in there that's no good. So we're kind of stuck for the minute on this gas issue that some people have been seeing on the swap system. We're stuck on fixing that until Uniswap comes in and fixes their package. Hopefully that'll happen within the next week or so. Getting that updated and out the door is really going to be my next priority. It's something I check in on every day to see if it's fixed yet, and as soon as it is fixed, then we'll roll a new version. Then to get more specific about the Blazor question, that's going to be a little bit lower down the priority level. The first, real focus was on getting the swap out the door. We still need to, dig in on the there were a couple. Yeah, so getting we got the main swap updated, but we haven't double checked and finished testing on the embedded version. I think we call it Lunar Dex Anywhere now, which I'm really excited about that brand also. We can't we can't take down angiswap.com and all of the CDNs that they're using to serve the JavaScript until we have an update and we have our own version that's in the same spot with updated branding. So that's kind of the next priority down the list after we get this bug fixed, is to get that ironed out, get a new build out the door, and then start redirecting angiswap.com over to lunardex.io. And then hopefully within that process, we'll start porting things over to Blazor. But I'm really not seeing us move the swap system over to Blazor until sometime next year. There are really some things we can do in the interim that are going to make the experience better and provide some interim fixes for that platform before we kind of, I want to say deprecate it, but before we start migrating over to the new system. And then one of the other things that I'd really like to get done is we do need to make updates to the routing contracts that get deployed to the 7 chains. So those are not upgradable smart contracts. We did see through the Angie ecosystem since we took over that there were a number of issues that they had over the life of their product based on let's say, incomplete thinking around the Solidity contracts, which are permanent and unchangeable. So just as an example, they have their fees totally hard coded in their swap contracts. So there's no ability to configure that at all. Clearly, we need to address that. So there's going to be an updated version of the routing smart contracts that needs to take place as well. All of those things are going to happen before we start kind of like trying to stand up a Blazor version of the system. So we'll be working with React and TypeScript and all of those technologies within this process, I would imagine throughout the end of the year. Once again, in the message that we posted, the increasing priority of making LNR multi-chain and not being dependent on any one project's uh, situations or circumstances means that some of the deliverables for the rest of the year may get pushed back into 2024. There's still 3 months in the year, so we don't have a specific set of changes that we may see yet. But as we start analyzing what the end of the year is going to look like, we may have some announcements to make in the weeks ahead about some minor adjustments. I don't see them being a terribly big deal. It's just a matter of resources and what's important and stabilizing the ecosystem moving forward. So that was about 10-15 minutes on the swap system. Here's the thing. Everybody's on the foundation. I believe I could speak for Val and the rest of the foundation when I say we're really excited about the swap. And about Lunar Dex and the opportunity to be able to support even more chains and get out there and make a dent in the ecosystem. This is your ecosystem. This is all the work we do is for our holders. And so, like, you guys have been begging us for a swap system for that system is the core, being the core of everything we're doing moving forward. So I would like to ask that you guys start spreading the word. Please use it. If you're doing crypto transactions, please use it as your system for doing those transactions. That helps out the ecosystem. We want to build up volume on here so we can start. There's lots of opportunities once there's enough transaction volume on the system to be able to go get listed on CMC CoinGecko, to start creating other partnerships and adding other ways to connect within the space. There are a couple things that we are also working on that front that hopefully we'll be able to announce. I would say in the next few weeks, that'll help kind of expand the access and reach of LNR. And as we're making these announcements and as we're doing this work, we really need holders to step up and do their part. This is your ecosystem. You own it too. So get out there, spread the word. We've been shipping pretty consistently for the past year, and it's time to make ourselves known once again. So Val, anything to add or jump in on about the decks?
Nothing specifically about the decks, no, but just everybody wants our price to go up, and the way to do that is to get people to buy, and the way to do that is to get attention on our token. So that's what we're after, and everybody that pitches into that kind of wins. So keep that in mind.
So along the lines of what I was talking about the token and liquidity pools and whatnot, Jack has asked, um, do we have any plans yet on which chains we're going to deploy liquidity to and what percentages? The answer is no. We do not have any concrete plans on how that's going to work. Really, um, my personal opinion, and I can speak for anybody else but myself, is I'm just tired of watching our efforts get subsumed by other projects, by other the performance of other people that we have zero control over. So my personal preference would be that the majority of our liquidity is on stablecoin, and so that we are our progress is solely determined. The value of the ecosystem is solely determined by our progress. I have zero decision making authority in that regard, or I have just as much authority as people that hold the number of tokens that I do. So we'll see what we end up pulling together. Our ability to do anything about that is still 2 full months away. So like coming up with the percentages and all of that is primarily going to be driven, I would imagine, by the market maker and not any like of our own personal or directorial or even DAO decisions. Like um I can let Val answer the other half of that, but like he's the second part of the question is will it be put up to a vote by the DAO? Um as a holder myself and speaking only for myself, um, I would prefer to have our experts running the markets tell us how to do that. And I would prefer, as we move forward, to keep our options as open as possible and making adjustments to that. So, having had a hand in managing all of that for the last year, I'd like to keep our options as open as possible and keep us the most flexible to being able to adapt. So I would tend to lean to our market makers for those kind of answers. Um, Val, anything to add about that?
Um, there's a likelihood that we're going to have a more the put it up to a vote by the DAO is kind of too general of a question. This isn't a thing of what we would say, like, what do you all want to do? This would be a thing of here are the suggestions that we want to do. Is it approved or not?
Yeah,
That is that's notable. So we aren't going to unilaterally just make decisions on whatever. We're going to make sure that everybody is informed as much as possible, and then we're moving ahead as a group. That's the whole point of all of this.
yeah. So as we get closer, we'll have more to communicate about that. Just like we have so many irons in the fire right now that it's you got to prioritize what you can do with what's available, and right now like it's certainly a priority to figure this out, and we want to have an answer by the time it unlocks, but we still have time to do our diligence and make sure we're making the best decision possible. Clearly, when we voted to lock the liquidity pool last year, the intention was for everybody to have the most stability in the transition, but clearly, it hasn't worked to our advantage in managing our position in the market. So we want to make sure that when this decision comes up again, that we have taken the lessons of the last year into account while we're making that decision. So, or while we're making those proposals. So, um, there's a question here from AA86 about ETFs and ETFs' position in the ecosystem. What positive impacts with crypto have with the ability to have ETFs, and can we anticipate them to benefit the lunar ecosystem? Um, any benefit that ETFs like, here's the thing. I've been watching crypto and been a part of crypto for a long time, and there were a lot of crypto people that were excited about the ability to short crypto, that it was signaling a new era for crypto as a mainstay in the financial ecosystem, and the irrational exuberance around that seemed to, just personally, in my opinion, blind people to the fact that there are always more people that will uh, that are against change than are for it. There It is so much easier to be a critic and be negative than it is to jump in, get your hands dirty, and do something about it, or even just cheer something on from the sidelines. And so that played out exactly the way I anticipated, and not exactly the way most people anticipated. It brought the market down. So ETFs are not something that the lunar ecosystem is going to be able to directly participate in. Right now, the only ETFs we're seeing are about it's if they're futures trading, if I understand it properly, and the only futures they're talking about are Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not EVM compatible and has nothing to do with our ecosystem directly. We had a Bitcoin pair on one exchange as an example, and it never got, excuse me, it never got used. So any effect that ETFs have on the ecosystem will be tangential. They might, a rising tide lifts all boats, and may help make the rest of the ecosystem bullish and then have an impact on LNR. But right now, we're not anticipating even being able to participate in that again, because every single ETF that has been discussed is around Bitcoin. There are no Ethereum ETFs that have even been floated as potential options. So until stuff like that happens, it's not going to directly affect our ecosystem.
Additionally, I mean, I am generally a technical person, but all of my technical experience has been in finance. When you start talking about ETFs, you start talking about regulations and you start talking about compliance. So the only reason that Bitcoin is out right now is because it's valuable and it's also not complicated. So when we start getting into other chains, that gets much more complicated, and it's hard to get regulation to wrap around something that's very large. I mean, if you try to make sense of US tax law, you can't. That's why we have accountants that get paid stupid amounts of money to do this, or lawyers even to fight that the accountants did it right. So even in the greater market of all of this, if we have these, like, let's say we have crypto tied ETFs, the crypto chains that will be in there are going to be like far few between. Like, it will be kind of like the investment brokers where you can choose between like Bitcoin and Litecoin and have fun.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't expect in the near future that it will be something that's worth digging into unless you just
Yeah.
happen to be that kind of a person. So I'm just throwing that out there as my personal opinion on how the market would change based on ETFs.
Yeah. Yeah, all those things end up having very little to do with um because they take place with cryptocurrencies and not crypto tokens. And because most of them happen on chains that do not involve smart contracts, there's no really way to be able to benefit from that. And there's more than enough value in the EVM driven ecosystem to spend time there and put our focus there. Outside of that, if it's not EVM compatible, it's not even really on my radar right now, because there's not enough bandwidth to go learn how to interact with that, given the opportunity that's in front of us. So we have to be smart with how we're spending our time and focusing our efforts. That is that. Trying to see, it's been a little while since we've had some question or had an AMA. I'm not sure if we've had an AMA since this question was posted. Um, but one of the questions was, where does the team realistically see us by the end of 2024 and over the next 5 years? What outside forces will affect our progress over the time period? Will ongoing geopolitical unrest help or hurt the future of crypto? I mean, so we're not prognosticators, not Nostradamus or a Nostradamus. I just have my personal opinions on like where I see things going. From Lunar's perspective, we've outlined what our plan looks like through the end of 2024, and it's at lunar.io/products. If you guys haven't seen it yet, and look, I've got the statistics to see how much this stuff gets looked at. We have done a tremendous amount of work over the last year to keep everybody as informed as humanly possible. We have posted over 40 blog posts on the website, and the traffic patterns there are not exactly what I would expect. So I would very much suggest people go to lunar.io, read up on the products page, read up on the blog, and see all the stuff that we've been doing and all that we've been shipping. That's really our plan through 2024. Is what we've discussed, and the products that we have up there to ship. That's our focus. Beyond that, over the next 5 years, who's to say? I'm hearing within my networks, rumblings that 2024 is going to be even more of a challenge than this year was. I don't know that we're going to see recovery anytime soon. The in the startup world, colleagues are battening down the hatches. Um, we might see a recovery there, but with the U.S. presidential election is going to have a pretty significant impact on a number of things. And until the regulatory environment becomes clearer, crypto is going to be murky. Um, Geopolitical stuff always has an impact on the future of crypto, but you know, unless there's an EMP, digital currency isn't going away. Um, Hopefully, that digital currency future stays decentralized and stays out of the hands of government, because just personally, I don't believe that anything good is going to come out of being central bank digital currencies and things like that. But those will continue to be an issue. And outside of that, we're just trying to focus on the things that we can control, and understand that we're a tiny speck in a large sea of crypto projects and you know startups and startup investors and all of those types of things. We're just one speck within that ecosystem, and we're trying to carve out a niche for ourselves. Uh, Hopefully, over the course of the 5 years, we've overcome these resource issues that we've dealt with in the past year. We're growing strong and continuing to build, and that's from my perspective the best that I can hope for within the process. And because a lot of it's dependent on you folks. We can only do so much. We can only ship product, and then you guys have to take it and run with it. So that's what I see happening. So, Val, anything to add in there?
I mean, not really. Um, we're getting into that dangerous, this could be taken as financial advice territory, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
just not do that. I have my own opinions on what kind of signs would be I guess, a trend in whether the market will go up or down, but yeah, I will
Yeah.
keep silent.
I mean, here's the thing: the market's going to do what it's going to do, and it's like every day the market goes up and every day the market goes down. That's the nature of markets, right? So, like, trying to predict which up it's going to be and which down it's going to be, like, it's not worth it. It's not worth pondering, in my opinion. I'm a builder personally, so like all I can do is build. That's my contribution to the space. And if people respond, then fantastic. So
Well, does anybody out there have any questions they want to come up and talk about?
yeah. Looking at the chat in here, I think we tackled all the questions in the AMA chat. I don't see any hands raised. Gonna give people just a minute if anybody wants to chat, but
And if
otherwise, I
you
think it'll be good to wrap this up.
and if you all are uncomfortable coming up on and talking, just post it in AMA questions and we'll address it. That's fine too.
All right. Well, not seeing anything new, not seeing anybody typing. I think it's probably about time to wrap this up then. Just want to say, like, guys, price sounds. I was like, listen to these later and like, man, probably sound tired. I'm tired. It's been a long week. I am really excited about our shipping stuff. I'm really excited about Lunar Dex. I hope you guys are excited about it. We did this deal and we took possession of the software, cleaned it up, shipped it, and are going to continue to work on that for you folks. So I hope that you folks take the time to spread the word and go from there. So, oh, Jack had another question in the chat. Can we get some good bullet points as to what sets our swap apart from others? Any future features coming? So we got a ton of features coming in the future. You guys know me; I don't like to talk about things like that, so they're a little more solidified. Um, what sets our swap apart? It's fast. If you go in, if you use it, if you pull stuff up, you're barely waiting for anything. It updates in real time, so it's constantly refreshing what the prices are. Depending on the token you pick, you get a wide variety of different liquidity pools to choose from, and and different prices within those pools. So the cool thing about the technology that I really liked is that it does a good job of picking which provider there is, or which liquidity pool is going to be the best to work from for the given price. We could probably go in and update the blog post. I put some features in the blog post on what it does. But just right off the top, we have a ton of on ramp capability from I think over a dozen on ramping providers. So worldwide, you should be able to on ramp through our platform on any if you are not in a sanctioned country. So if you're subject to international sanctions, you're probably not going to be able to on ramp through our platform, but everyone else can. So you've got on ramping. You can buy just about any. Well, I don't want to say a lot of the tokens that are supported on the swap. You can buy directly through the on ramp. We're obviously looking at how to make Lunar a part of that process as well, to be able to buy LNR directly through the on ramper. So that's something that we're working on. That's coming. It's just a matter of when. So it's fast, multiple liquidity pools. It's relatively easy to manage and maintain. I will say one of the future features that we have coming up that is a priority is getting Uniswap's Uniswap on BNB chain connected into the ecosystem, so that any pool that's available on Uniswap on BNB chain is also available to us. So getting that in is important. We still have a little bit to learn to get that squared away. Speed, tokens, on ramp, liquidity pools. The connecting through just about any wallet. Would love that. The liquidity pools, like I said, those are. I think I covered a lot of them in the blog post, but we'll go in and see if we can add some more things. Really, like the main bullet point right now is that it's just really fast. It executes the swaps. Obviously, when blocks are updating or whatever, that's totally outside of our control. But any other part of the system is really fast. And anything that we do to improve the system will help out with that. Jack, and your question on like infrastructure security, a lot of that is still primarily tied to the code that we acquired. So like if we're going to maintain the code base that we have for just a little while, there are some upgrades I'm going to want to make to be more comfortable with security as being a bullet point. Being on infrastructure or on Azure does help us. The deployment structure we have does help. But I don't want to, we're not in a position to hang our hat on security as a bullet point until the smart contracts have been rewritten and audited. And so I wouldn't hang my hat on that for a while. But yeah, it's you guys should go play with it. Check it out. It's like I said, I've made several transactions on it on several different chains, and it's really fast. So I have yet to see another chain that is able to get or another swap that's able to get pricing as quick as we do, that's able to adjust as quick as we do in the hops, and is smoother on actually executing the trade. Now, there is a lot of work to be done on the user experience when trade fails for some reason. So we are going to work on cleaning that up and making that better. But those are the main ones. And with that, it's coming up on the 12 o'clock hour. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So if there are no further questions, I still don't see any hands raised. Hope you guys check it out. LunarDex.io. Tell your friends. Post about it on social media. Make the world know there's a new game in town, and we're coming for you. So appreciate your support as always. Val, anything else to add?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, hope you folks have a great couple weeks. I imagine we're gonna try to get back on now that summer's over. Try to get back on a regular routine with these. We'll have an announcement on that schedule soon. So we'll see you soon. If you have any questions in the meantime, drop them in our Telegram. Drop them in our Discord. We'll get to them as quickly as possible. You folks are awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.